Welcome, dreamers, and welcome all who love dreams and all who love whales. Today, I am beyond delighted to sit down with the extraordinary Leah Lamb, sacred storyteller, founder of the School for Sacred Storytelling, creator of the book that will be coming out soon, and she's going to be releasing chapters of The Whale Dreamer. And also, she's the creator of the Whale Dreaming Council. Leah's work lives at the intersection of myth, ecology, dreams, and deep listening, inviting us to remember that storytelling isn't merely entertainment. It is sacred technology for reconnecting us with ourselves, each other, and with the living world. And what better guide could we ask for than the whale? I can't wait to tell my story about how I met Leah and how the whale had much to do with that. So you already know this, but whales are among the most awe-inspiring beings on our planet. They communicate across vast distances through hauntingly beautiful songs. They maintain intricate social bonds, possess some of the largest brains and hearts in the animal kingdom. Scientists continue to uncover evidence suggesting rich cultural traditions and social learning among whale communities, revealing that these magnificent beings may have far more complex inner lives than we've once imagined. I'm covered in chills. I feel like that was my truth bumps. So in dreams, a lot of us are dreaming about whales these days for good reason. And I believe, of course, if it were my dream, whales symbolize profound wisdom, emotional depth, intuition, ancient memory, and vast unconscious. Vast unconscious, if I could say that word. A whale dream may be calling you to trust your inner knowing, dive beneath the surface of your mundane daily life, and listen more deeply to the song your soul is singing. Because whales live in both the mystery of the deep and the necessity of coming up for air. They often appear in dreams when we're being invited to balance spiritual depth with practical expression. And I would say, I think the whales are coming to our rescue, and they might need a little help as well, a little reciprocity. So today, Leah and I will explore what it means to dream with whales. We've got an upcoming program that we'll talk to you about that you will be invited to, a hand select few of you that want to take a deep dive into whale dreaming. And today we're going to be listening to the intelligence of the ocean to awaken to a deeper relationship with the stories that are dreaming us into being. So let's all take a deep breath. And let's just imagine that we are floating in an infinite blue sea. And you can just join us as we dive deep into the mystery with the whale dreamer herself, Leah Lamb, and I'm covered in chills. Thank you so much for joining me on this Substack Live. It's so fun to be with you, Leah friggin' Lamb. Can I just add that as your middle name?
I would be honored. You are one of my favorite people on the planet to play with and to dream with and to make sense of dreams with. And if I could count all the dreams that we talked about on those long walks in the red
Oh,
red rocks,
red
oh
rocks.
my gosh, my savior in understanding dreams and nightmares of this time.
Yeah,
I want to
yeah.
hear, what was your first experience with a whale? And I,
Well,
I also want to offer,
yeah,
as
yeah.
we're all here together listening, maybe we can all invite in our whale allies as we do this
Ooh,
together.
yeah.
So maybe you consciously connect with one kind of whale over another, or maybe there's a whale that travels through the waters that touch the land of your home, or maybe just there's one whale or dolphin species that catches your imagination. I invite you just to take a moment as we enter into this conversation to invite them into this conversation, to invite their
Mm.
presence more actively into your life. I think they have the most mysterious aspects of consciousness. And as you were saying, they've got the biggest hearts and brains on the planet. I mean, that's kind of a big deal. Can't even
Yeah.
imagine what they're up to over there.
Yeah,
And so,
and it's interesting you say on the planet because they are in the water, but that is part of the planet. So I don't know if everybody associates that, but I think that's
that
interesting.
is a
Biggest,
planet. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
within our planet, which is so much of it is water, and so
Mhm.
much of that is so important.
Mhm.
I feel like I want a presence. I want a few things that we're going to talk about. There's some specific whale dreams I want to bring in. I want to talk about why whale dreams are so important at this time. I want to talk about our upcoming program, and I want to talk about the call to action um, regarding, well, there's our program, but also there's something that is happening that's pretty serious with the whales. Let's talk about that. Maybe let's just so that people know there's some gravitas. It's not just like yippee whales, woo, which
Hey,
is
whales.
yes, fun and playful, but there's also
Yeah.
something very serious going on. So let's address
Yeah.
that, and then we'll play for sure because we can do all
Yeah.
of it. But I
Yeah.
feel like we have to address the whale in the room, not the elephant in the room, but the whale. So
Yeah, the room. Yeah, I mean, there's so much happening right now. And right now, as I was looking at the latest reports, it's interesting. There's some that say 52, some that say 152. So I need to go back, and it's so hard to find the
it's a
exact
lot.
information.
We could say a
It's a
lot.
lot, and it's way more than normal. Whales that are showing up on the shores of the western coast. So what we're doing is we're seeing them between California, Oregon, Washington, and these are our whale family who just gave birth. They just had their babies, and now they're traveling for the first time through these corridors to the places where they feed, because they actually don't eat in the when they make where they make their babies. They're not eating. They're actually fully focused on fun, play, connection, all the things they can't eat. You know what it is to be in love. And then they
Who
head
needs
north.
food? Right.
Who needs food? But what's happening is we're seeing a multiple year pattern of them not having enough food, and so they're showing up with less resources in their body. They don't have as much fat storage for when they're traveling. And what we're discovering are two very, very devastating things. One is many are showing up starving. Can you imagine traveling through your home and not having enough food? Going to the grocery store and your grocery store is empty. That's what our whales are experiencing right now. And along with more ship strikes. So what's happening is, and then attack of sound because of all the different sounds that are happening. So there's
Because of
amazing.
what? What's causing that?
What's
What's caught
the shipping lanes? When you
technology?
order from
Oh,
Amazon,
I'm oh man.
whoops. When you order from Amazon, you are adding to shipping lanes.
Holy shit.
I know this is, I mean, I just want to get really real here because I think so many of us
Mm.
I love the ocean. I love whales. And yet, that does not change the fact that some of the things and I do in my everyday life are having very devastating consequences on the beings that I love and adore. And so many of us don't know what those things are. So, some of the things that are happening is we're seeing just very literal starvation. That's happening from overfishing. Where does your fish come from? If it's coming from mass fishing, if you're not
Mm.
in relationship to a local fisherman in your region, you are contributing to that mass overconsumption. I know it's a hard one to take in. If you feed your pets food and aren't paying attention to if it's not made with krill, and there's only a couple companies that make pet food that don't include krill, you're contributing to the starvation of whales when they go to the Arctic.
Okay, can
I
we
hate to be
find
harsh
those
like this.
companies that don't do that so we can put those links? We'll
We'll put
put
those in
those
the
links
links.
in afterward.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Um, so these are just a couple. If you're taking omega-3s, there's so many ways that we can get resources. We do not need to be eating krill. Whales need krill. It's the only food they eat. It's as if,
Wow.
it's yes. So we have this extraordinary capacity to eat many, many different things, and
Yeah.
whales have a very small diet. The biggest creatures in the world eat the very smallest. these phytoplankton, and
Wow.
that in yeah, and so we need these oceans to stay healthy. We need our whales to stay present because what they do is they do many things, aside from just capturing our imagination, our awe, and our dreams and our wow. But they literally they rest the nervous system of the planet, and they create
Okay, wait, wait,
calm.
wait, wait,
So
wait. Wait, so the
yeah,
whales, they help to rest the nervous system of the planet.
yeah.
So with if I mean they're not going to become extinct, but the fact that there are fewer of them and the fact that they're starving, that means more of, I mean, we need all the calm we can get.
Well,
So
we're in a very traumatized. I'm.
yeah,
I feel like we're more aware of trauma in the world than we've ever become. Right? I
yeah,
can't say that, you know. Um, and
yeah.
so, what we understand about the humpback whales is that when they sing, they've done research where they actually understand that it calms the nervous system of coral, of the other life in that region. And so, when you think about, the wars that are happening in the world, some of those are happening on the ocean.
Right,
And
right,
so the
right.
beings of those places. I don't want to go too far down this lane because, we could talk about the challenges that whales are going through for hours, you
Yeah.
know, and some of it's very real. And when I look at it, it can feel hopeless, and I can feel helpless
Mhm.
because literally every night I go to bed and I think about these whales that I love that are
Mhm.
starving on
Mhm.
our watch.
Mhm.
And that's the thing that we have to look at as humans. As humans, we were given the opportunity to become guardians of the land. I really believe in my heart of heart that in the mythos that the whales are guardians of the ocean realms. And so we're deeply linked and connected in so many different ways. And so, how are we taking care of our fellow guardians who take care of our waterways? And
Mhm.
water is a source of life. We're all
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
deeply connected. You talked about that at the beginning.
Mhm.
So I think that there are many ways that we can change the story
Mhm.
because you just said, whales aren't going extinct. I don't know that.
Right, right, right. Well, and not in my dream, they're not.
Not
So
in, right.
you're right. We want to talk about the problem, like in A Course in Miracles. I say this all the time. It says, look at the crucifixion, but dwell not on it, so that you can
Yeah.
like kind of get into the resurrection consciousness. So we just
Mhm.
pointed at the problem. There's a problem, and there are some things we can do, and I want us to talk about a handful of those things. Let me throw in one little thought. So I see Sedina Capanelli. Hi, Sedina Capanelli has joined our live chat. Several years ago, my husband Dana worked with her, Sedina and George Capanelli, and they created the Ageless Living series, and it won all kinds of awards, and it's on PBS. One of the speakers in the series, I get chills, David Suzuki, who I know you know, very famous environmentalist, and in many ways, I saw him speak live, and I was so mad at him because it was doom and gloom to the max. He said, "It's not the 11th hour, it's the 12th hour. It's done. There's nothing else we can do to turn the ship around. That's it. And that's my time. Goodbye." And we were like, "Wait a minute. Wait. Wait, what?" And so he said, somebody said, "Is there any hope? Any?" And he said, "Well, I don't, all right, I'll give you one little thing." He said, "The salmon for years," and I'm not going to say this exactly right, but he said for years, the salmon that were supposedly like swimming upstream in a region in Canada, the scientists were measuring that every year the salmon were becoming fewer and fewer drastically every year, fewer and fewer. And it was looking like there's not going to be any more friggin' salmon. And then out of nowhere, they all returned back to exactly where they had been years before when they were flourishing. And he said there was absolutely no scientific reason that they would come back like that. He said, and he got choked up. He said, there has to be some grace. There is something beyond what is measurable and the destruction that we humans are capable of that will only take us so far. Yes, we are pretty destructive, but there is also some grace. So we can't just lean on that grace and be like, oh, well, then let's just eat all the dog food and cat food in the world, or give it that's eating all the krill and use it. Like, let's just use up all our resources. No. So let's identify a few things that are within the realm of what we humans can do, while we also have some sense of there is grace. So is there anything you can think of that we can do besides order
No.
less on Amazon, go
Yeah.
support your local shops, mom and pop shops,
Yeah.
whenever possible?
Yeah. There are some really tangible things. And I actually hold another thread to that story that you just told, that you just brought back to my memory. And I wish I could remember the source of this story. I've got to go find it. There was there was a place where the salmon weren't running anymore. And there
Mm.
was someone who, part of the salmon people, who remembered their songs of the salmon. And they went to this place and they sang and they sang and they sang the songs of the salmon back to that water so that it could remember itself, and salmon began to run again. This is a true
Ooh.
story. It's shown by scientists because the scientists said they weren't there anymore. And there was a grandmother who remembered the songs, and she said, we just don't remember how to sing to them anymore. So when we ask these questions of what we can do, I feel like it's like, what dimension are we playing in? And we're
Oh,
multidimensional people, and it's a
yeah.
multidimensional challenge, issue, situation. And so, how do we meet it in all the dimensions? So, in the 3D world of the material realm, get plastic out of your conversation.
Ooh.
And it creates discipline. It
Can
means
I
not
give
buying plants.
one little
Yeah.
example on that?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
on airplanes, they always want to give you water, like little plastic cups for the water. I bring
Yeah.
a glass bottle, my little
Mhm.
glass
Mhm.
reusable kombucha
Yeah.
bottle, and I bring it
Yeah.
on. And sometimes they say, no, sorry, we can't. I'm like, yeah, you can. Yeah, I've seen people do it. They do it. So
Yeah.
please just fill up my water bottle. I don't want one of those little plastic cups. And then I just
Yeah.
bring this around, so I always have plenty of water, and I
Yeah.
fill it up near the bathroom. They always have little filling stations, so that's at least one thing that we can
Yep.
do.
Yep.
So, what
And you did
yes.
it with a smile. What I love what you just said
Yes,
is that
yeah, you
you went
can.
on to ally
I bet
mode,
you
right? You're like,
can. I bet you
yeah.
can. Let's see if you do it.
Right.
I'll give you a prize. I don't know what that prize will be, but no.
You didn't go righteous, you didn't go judgmental. You
Right.
said, let's play in another way. And I think that
Yeah.
mentality, and
I
if
saw
we
that guy
just
do
meet
it.
all of life like, hey, let's play in another way. We've
Mhm.
played in this way, let's play in another way.
Right.
I love Ziploc bags. They're like my favorite thing. I just found compostable
Yes.
Ziploc bags,
Okay, we gotta put a
and
link to the compostable
I
Ziploc
will
bags.
do that. I will do that.
Okay,
I
I'm
was so
drinking out
excited.
of this Starbucks mug, by the way, but this
Uh-huh.
is a reusable mug I've had for, like, 55 years. Because I
I
love
borrowed it and got it
okay,
back to you.
maybe not 55 years, because that would be gross, but I've had it. It's like I want my Starbucks cup because it makes me feel like I've just
Yeah.
been to Starbucks, because I do love myself a Starbucks. In
Yeah.
Starbucks, they do a lot of giving back anyway. We should
Yeah.
I don't know. But
Yeah.
I use it, I reuse it over and over, so we can find things that we like that are reusable, even if it does contain some
Mhm.
cooties. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't wanna go
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
I don't know about becoming an absolute purist and a renunciate of all things, but practice the reusableness of these things that we like. So what
Yeah,
else?
and I will say, I think this time we
Yeah.
really, I just went snorkeling the other day, and I got to hang out with this big, beautiful, huge turtle. And he was at the bottom of the ocean, surrounded in a pile of garbage, of plastic. So I think that
Mm.
there was a
We
time
could
when we became more aware, and we were like, oh, how do we make this transition? And then we lived in a time of grace and innovation when a lot of
and that's
people
over.
answered the call, and they said, let's create other alternatives. And now, at this point, there are those alternatives. And if you aren't specifically taking action, this is one thing that you can do to build up your ego and your self love, to know I am part of the solution.
Yeah.
A little
Yeah.
bit of inconvenience.
Yeah.
Because here's how I go to bed every night. I don't want the whales to go and the ocean to go on my watch. And it's going to
Right.
be a really hard moment at the end of my life when I said, well, it was just a couple of plastic bags that killed other things. It's like I really think we need to start pushing through the threshold of change
Okay,
in
so if
another
everybody at
way.
least does that, at least gets these, and we are going to do the link, and maybe somebody in the chat can go look it up, look up these compostable plastic bags and put it in the live chat. That would be great, so we don't have to wait until we're done with this conversation. So even if we do one thing, carry your
And
glass
that's it.
bottle
I think you
onto the
start with one thing like this month. There's 12 months in a year. What if every month
Leah.
you chose one thing to shift in your life that brought you into a more aligned way with the resources and the world that we live in? Because we weren't taught that. I wasn't taught that. I was taught that I live in a country where there is nonstop resources at all times, and that's true. It just doesn't mean that the generation after me will get to have that same experience. So
Exactly. Right.
I hate the blame story. I really hate it when people say humans are bad. Humans are not bad. We are amazing and awesome and creative and innovative, and there's so many people who have heard the call and say, I want to do something different.
Yeah.
And we're in a process of systems change, and systems
Yeah.
change when the people that live within them decide that they require another system to live within and start acting as such. And
Ooh.
so I want to say, like, we talked about change. There's the material world, right?
Yeah.
So there's certain things that we can do to change in the material
Yeah.
world. But then
Oh.
there's the
There's
ethereal world.
yes, 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 yes. Let me
There's
put
the
one little
dream.
button on the physical part just for a
Yeah.
second, and then we're gonna go way into
Let's
the rest of it. But I wanna say that on the outset, it might look to some like it's kind of like being a do-gooder, like, "I'm helping the planet." No, you're not. You're helping your damn self. It's I mean, if the whales are helping to regulate our nervous system, you are doing something for yourself. There's no martyrdom in that. There's no victimhood in that. There's no selflessness in that. It's selfish with the capital S. It's the good kind of selfish where you're taking care of yourself by taking care of what's around you because it comes back to you and yours, your people, your children, your grandchildren, your cousins, your aunts, your whatever is going to go beyond you. So it's not even the do-gooder thing, which the reason I say it this way is because maybe I'm just projecting, but so this is for myself. Maybe when I'm in survival mode, I think I just need to get my own shit covered. And
Mhm.
whatever's going to affect everybody else, well, that can come later. But no, I think it's part of me covering my own ass is to is to take care of these beings. And as we transition right now into more of an etheric, dreamy way of looking at the whales, I think we're going to feel the effects and of why and how these beings are important at this time. So do
I
you want
love
to say anything on that?
every well, I love all of what you said. And you were making me think about, I love this phrase, when I'm having a particularly good moment in life, and I'm like, oh gosh, my past self sure did take care of my future self.
Ooh. Oh, I
And
love that.
and
I
it's
love
like
that.
that. We really want our present selves to be taking care of our future selves, because I don't know about you, but 15 years
Mm,
from now, I still want to be able to travel to see my family. I still want to
mm.
have abundant tables filled with food. I want to live in healthy, vibrant, thriving waters. And what I do and what you do, every single action we take today creates the pathway to that.
Oh
And
my
so
god. I
let's
love
take care of our
Monica
future
Vaughn said,
selves.
"Make a resource change calendar. Changes calendar."
I
Yes,
love it.
Leah, let's do it. That'll be part
Let's
of
do
what
it.
we offer in our whale dreaming program. So
We're
that's
dreaming a
something that
new dream.
we're
I
dreaming
love
a
it.
dream and I
Mhm.
always it's like it's not enough to just talk about the pain and the problem. I'm somebody that I need a solution to chew on, then it doesn't then it's not so painful. I remember working with a bunch of kids when I in the early days of the Dream Project, which you know about when I not to go on too long of a meander, but I
Yeah.
ended up at the United Nations because I had been the president of the Women's National Book Association after my first book came out. And I found out about the Millennium Development Goals, which are now the Sustainable Development Goals, rightfully so. And I had the brainstorm of brainstorms that caused me to shake my body, to literally tremor. And I started a program with kids to connect them with the United Nations Millennium Development Goals. And I brought in a time travel element. We brought in pieces of a time travel machine from the movie Terminator 2, so that we literally would go into a time machine to go into the different versions of the future, the worst, the most ordinary, predictable, and then the best. And we would have the kids pick one of the Millennium Development Goals based on whether it be to eradicate hunger and poverty, create gender equality, sustainability, environmentally, cures for the major diseases, whatever. So they would pick one of these big challenges to the planet, to humanity. They would have to understand the problem, and then they would have to go into the future to figure out what the solution was, like Einstein did. He would ride that little comet into the future, come back with the solution. And I remember this one kid at one of our assemblies. He said, when I first learned about how devastating the planet, like the state of the planet, I was so sad. Like I almost couldn't get out of bed. But then when I realized there was something I could do, I got so pumped up that I couldn't wait to get out of bed in the morning, and I couldn't wait to tell all the kids. And he was like this football playing jock that was like, and now I'm pumped. I just remember him jumping around saying, I'm pumped, I'm pumped. Like, I'm like, yeah. Like when there is something we can do, even if it's tiny, yay, I'm totally like that kid. Like it's exciting to know that we can affect change, even if it's little. Let's get excited about that thing that we can do. So peace. I'm doing a wrap up on the physical aspect of things, even though there's always a weave between the physical and the metaphysical, because the metaphysical, like you said, what plane are we existing on? Maybe there's a lot we can do on the metaphysical plane as well, including dreaming. So where would you like to go with this now? Should I tell them how I met you?
Yeah. What's that?
Should I tell them how I met you?
Oh, sure. That'd be fun.
Okay.
That's kind of crazy. It's a wild,
It's kind of
beautiful
crazy.
story.
It's kind of
Yeah,
crazy.
it's
Okay.
a good one.
I'll be quick. So it's a so my all right, shit, this is long. All right. My friend Gypsy, some of you already know this story, but my friend Gypsy passed away. I have a picture of her right here. This is a picture of her and I when we were
Oh,
this is
I love
I want to get a
that.
photo shoot. This is my Gypsy.
Aw.
And Gypsy and I became friends 30 some years ago. And we got closer and closer, bestier and bestier. And in 2020, right before COVID, it was like 2019, leading up to 2020, she got cancer, and cancer of the tongue. It was very brutal because she was a singer, speaker. Like she was, so it was beyond brutal. I don't want to go into all the gory details. It was gory and it was gnarly. So they did a surgery where they took the cancer out of her tongue, and it happened to be where there were a lot of blood vessels, and they had to, in order to replace the blood vessels, they had to remove her veins in her left wrist, which happened to be where her whale tattoos were. They removed her whale tattoos. And we were so sad about that. Like, oh my God, they've taken all this stuff from you. And now they've taken your whales from you. But then we realized her whales were put onto her tongue. So this might sound a little morbid, a little gory, but like, Gypsy, you have whales on your tongue. You can't speak in the ordinary human way, but you can speak whale. Oh, and she was so excited because she loved her humpback whales. Those were her favorites. She was always like the whales. And Gypsy was kind of a nervous Nelly. She was always jittery, but whenever she would even think about the whales, she would calm down. When she would imagine that she was with the whales, like the whales were her spirit animal for sure. So Gypsy passed, and I just remember, and the day after, gosh, do I have my oracle deck here? I've got them out in the front yard, but I have a whale. I've got, oh my, okay, sorry, I'm being a spaz. I do have it here in my ordinary dream oracle cards. After Gypsy passed, I was so sad. And I said, Gypsy, you got to give me a sign. I need to know where you are, where you ended up, what's going on. I don't know that I'm going to find the card right now, but I was literally just bereft. And so I think I put a bunch of my oracle cards out, said, like, communicate with me. And the card that I pulled was the whale card. And the message, and I'll put the message in this post later because it bears repeating, but it was basically, I'm swimming in the deep end of the ocean now. And don't cry for me. I'm in the depth, and that's where I want to be. This is where the treasures are. And in order to stay in touch with me, you have to meet me in the depth. Mm-hmm. And I'm having a whale of a time. And I'm going with the flow. There was all this great stuff. So anyway, so the whale has been a huge aspect of my synchronicities with Gypsy. So on the first anniversary of Gypsy's passing, I was like, Gypsy, send me a sign. Send me some kind of a sign that you're with me. So the whole day goes by and I got nothing. Nothing. I'm like, Gyps, come on. So I get invited to a neighbor's house in Topanga who I had never met. I can't believe I hadn't met this person. She's the sacred storyteller. And I'm invited to this woman named Leah Lamb's home, and it's this beautiful event with all these people telling stories and all of this. And we don't really get a chance to talk much because Leah Lamb is entertaining all the people. And right towards the end of the night, I'm just about to leave. We have this moment together in the kitchen, and I say, hi, by the way, thank you for inviting us. I'm Kelly. I'm a dream person. And, maybe we'll get to talk. And and Leah Lamb says, I'm the whale dreamer. And I'm like, what did you say? Did you say that you're the whale dreamer? What do you mean by that? How are you a whale? And it was like, chills, Gypsy was there. Like, so immediately I knew, like, this Gypsy gave me the sign, and it was hang out with this woman, Leah. And she says, I'm connected to the whales. I'm a big dreamer. We'll have to talk about it. I'm like, yeah, you had me at hello. Okay. So then the little cherry on top is, I wake up the next morning and I'm still sleeping. I'm kind of in that hypnopompic state where I'm like between worlds, still dreaming. And I hear this voice telling me a story about when we were whales, about a woman who used to be a whale, who's now walking on the land with 2 feet, but she's connected. And I'm like, wait, what? What is this? And Dana was playing an audio on his phone that Leah had sent him. I didn't know. And it was this gorgeous, epic poem about a whale and a woman connecting these 2 worlds. And I was like, what? So yeah, that's how I met Leah Lamb. So I kind of, sometimes you get a little nudge to meet somebody and you're like, oh, that person's going to be sacred to me. And other times it's like a wallop across the head that is undeniable. Okay, that's how I met Leah. By the way, I have this little picture behind me of somebody gave me this little picture. People can see this. It's kind of a woman. It's kind of a dolphin whale woman, and Gypsy's got dark hair. So I think of that as my Gypsy. I'm gonna keep myself in that direction. So she give you with it. Okay, I turn it over to you. I don't know if you want to pick up on any of that stuff.
Gypsy. I feel so connected to Gypsy because I know I really have her to thank for our connection.
Picked you for me
in that wild way. And Yeah, it's so funny because I would never normally introduce myself that way. Something must have like possessed me to introduce myself like that because I've been kind of shy about it. And then what I remember about that dinner party was that Dana, I remember exactly where he'd sat. He sat at the table, at the head of the table. There were a bunch of people there. A lot of you guys knew each other. You guys were all talking back and forth. And Dana didn't say one word. And I thought, who's the grumpy guy? Like really, I was like, who's the grumpy dude who doesn't say anything? And at the end of the evening, he like kind of like, had me come over and he's like, send me your story. Like, send me a story. He was like very Godfather like. He was just like, send me a story. Like, I want to know, like, show me something. Show me what you got. And I had no idea what to send him. I have so many different stories, but that one had literally just arrived. It had arrived through a dream. And I don't know what possessed me to send him something that was still so raw, but it was so alive. And yeah, I remember that was the deal. When you heard that, you texted me. You were like, "What is going on?" And here
Okay.
we are.
And
Here
so
we are.
and then what went on beyond that was you came to the house and then you
Yeah,
and Dana recorded the Whale
yeah.
Dreamer audio. So I went looking for it on YouTube. I couldn't find it today. So we need to that'll be
Oh,
one of the
it's
special
there.
bonuses we give to the
Mhm, mhm.
subscribers or whatever. We might end up just giving it to everybody because I don't really know how to separate things. So I like to honor the subscribers that support us, but
Yeah,
I think we're just gonna give it away. It's that kind of a whale of a day.
yeah,
Ah, yeah. So we're meant to be doing something together. So tell us about the Whale Dreamer, the book that you are working on that you will soon be offering in chapters to
yeah,
your community, and how can people find out more about your
yeah.
community?
I want to tell you about how it came alive because,
Yeah.
we keep talking about this multidimensional way of meeting life. And one is through this material world. How do we act based on what we think and what we believe? And then there's how do we act and maneuver through our consciousness? And
Yeah.
how do we relate to our dreams and how do we relate to our visions and how do we tend to that part of the real estate of our temples?
Mm.
And I had just recovered from having cancer. I was in my early 30s and I really understood how precious life was. That it is a truly temporary ride that we get on for a while and then we get off. And I had almost lost my voice. They had to cut across my larynx in the surgery, and they told me that I might not have my voice. And so when I came out, I was very aware that of the privilege, especially to have a voice, to be a woman in the Western world during these times that can have a voice, and how was I going to use it? And I went to the edge of the ocean with a prayer, and I didn't know anything about prayer before this time. I wasn't raised with that kind of practice, but when you get sick, you learn about a lot of different things. And I had learned about the power of prayer. And I had learned that I had learned that they've done all this research and studies that found people who were ill and had that when they had people praying for them, that they healed much faster, that all kinds of
Yeah.
miraculous things happened. And so I understood the power of prayer. And so I took my prayer to the ocean and I
Mm.
really prayed for life. And it was one of those moments when I was at that biggest state of, I realized I wasn't just praying for my life, I was praying for all of life. And
Mm.
I was making a prayer to be woven in and to bring the absolute best of my gifts to these times
Mm.
and to like, please show me how. And I'm a Capricorn and we like structure and discipline, we like to do things. So
An
I thought I was
earth
gonna come up with a
sign,
business
yeah.
idea. Like really, I thought I was gonna come with like I don't know, I had this like, I had like a sustainability idea. It's like maybe I'll create a business and all of that. And as soon as I set the prayer out, I heard an answer immediately. And it said, nothing. And so I was like, oh, that's not my ego talking.
Thank you. Thank
I
you
thought
very
I
much.
knew everything. And I heard, nothing. You're a student in training. Take long walks, take long baths, and listen. And up to that point in my life, I was very, very, very outwardly focused. Like I needed all of my good feelings about myself to come from others. So it was really about proving myself and doing and doing and doing outwardly. And this order was really saying, stop all of that, bring all of your energy in, don't do anything. Your greatest act of answering, of receiving, is to just really be still and listen. And so I did it. I was in a rare moment in my life. I was taking care of a friend's homestead in Northern California, and I had these 10 days, and I said, okay, well, might as well. And it was like torture for me because I just like to do things. And I did. I listened. I took long walks and I took long baths and I listened. And it was on the ninth day when I was walking through Redwood Forest when I heard whales singing. And for years, I told people that I just thought I heard whales singing. And it wasn't until this last year that I've heard and started learning stories from around the world that from origin stories that explain the connection between whales and trees. That's a whole
Oh,
other river
wow.
that we're not going to go down right now. But I heard whales singing. And being a writer, I ran back to my computer and I thought I was going to write a poem. And instead, I wrote into the sunrise of the next day the first 14 chapters of The Whale Dreamer. And it was everything I could have wanted and so much more in terms of a story that really holds people through the times of the great transition that we're in on this
Mm,
planet.
mm,
And it tends to the war in the oceans. It tends to the sixth mass extinction, but all through a really beautiful love story between a
mm.
young girl who's called to by the whales. And uh, the reason why it's called The Whale Dreamer is, partly because I dreamed with whales for years and years and years. I would just hear their songs in my dreams. But also in the book, there's a moment when, and I'll just tell you this little bit, it's not a
Yeah,
complete giveaway,
yeah.
but that in the story, the reason why the whales are calling to our main character, this young girl, is because they can't do what they've been put here to do, which is to become guardians of the dreams, and that
Mm,
they're under attack, and the dream of our future needs to be surfaced, and they can't do it. They need her to do it. So also in the story, it tends to this much greater question that I think we're tending as human race right now, which is who owns the dream of our future.
oh,
And I really think that our futures has been under the dream of our future has been under attack. I would even go so far as to say it's been hijacked, and
mm,
that so many of us, when we see the future, we've been inundated
mm,
by these images. Even when I love the movies. I love the movies so much. And
mhm.
now when you go to the movie theater, you're exposed to all these previews of movies that are not in
Ooh,
the same genre of what you chose, and they
hmm.
force these crazy images into your head, and a lot of them lately have been about like Armageddon, end of the world, all this stuff. And
Ooh,
so,
ooh,
what I'm saying is that, maybe you are a very skilled guardian of your consciousness and you really tend to what you allow into your imagination, which is very hard these days. Or maybe you aren't doing that, but that all of us at some point have had these kind of ideas injected about what's going to happen in the future, and
mm,
yet none of that is determined until we have taken the steps to make it so. So we're still in our process of creating
mm,
the path. That's why I love the work of
mm,
Paul Hawken in Project Drawdown, when he said,
mm,
look, the only images that we have of the future is if everything goes wrong. We don't have the images of if everything goes right.
mm,
And there are
that's
hundreds of
good.
thousands of
Yes,
organizations
yes.
around the world that are stepping up and stepping into reinventing and innovating. There's so many cool ways that we can be calling on energy. It's all right here, but it needs our will, it needs our determination. And it needs us to get out of the story that people aren't awesome, because people are amazing. And when we do
Mm,
amazing things, and when we reclaim who we are as creators, and every day we're creating the world that we are living in by what we do, how we think, the actions that we take, the words that we use. And then when we remember our
mm,
power as dreamers, and that's why I'm so excited to collaborate with you,
yes.
because one of the things that we know is that there's all these different dimensions,
Mm,
and The world needs our dreaming, our conscious, intentional dreaming. It needs our prayers, our focused energy, not just on what's going wrong. We need to pay attention, but we also need to keep putting our prayers into the world that we're calling forward, the world that we want to heal,
Mm,
the world that we want to restore and bring back to life. Because one of the things that I think is so incredible about the planet that we're living on is that it regenerates. It's a healer. Our planet herself is a
mm.
healer. And we got to see that
Oh.
during COVID. As soon as all the nonsense in the ocean stopped, as soon as the air is cleared,
Mm.
we had clear blue
Yeah,
skies in
yeah,
LA.
it's so true,
Wow.
so quickly.
The corals came back to life.
Yeah,
Wow. You know,
yeah.
so, going back to what is the Whale Dreamer? It's a book, it's a story, but it's also a story that was built out of a prayer to bring healing to these times and to also provide people a community and engagement pathway for how to be part of the dream that we want to take care of, the world that we want to live in. And so you can read the
Mm.
book, but you can also join the Whale Dreaming Council, where we bring in Indigenous elders and storytellers and scientists, where we learn how to become great guardians of the planet. And you're a big part of that. And I'm so excited for you to be there to play with us and
Ooh,
co-create with us.
I'm so I'm so inspired. I love listening to you speak, Leah.
Yeah.
I noticed myself, one of the things I'm always sorting for, is like some kind of a silver bullet, like
Mm.
because we can be overwhelmed, inundated with the problem, the solution. There's so many things that we can just be rendered, at least I can be rendered kind of useless because of the overwhelm. So what's the simple thing? What are the simple things? What are the simple things? And this is one of the many reasons why it's important to me to be communicating with you now. One of the reasons why I think Gypsy brought us together in this here and this now is because I think dreaming about whales is sort of the silver bullet, even though that's a horrible turn of phrase. I'm sure there's a better way of saying it. Like, for example, if we want to evolve our consciousness more quickly, just the thought of whales, it's like an instant shifter. Just thinking about, if we just imagine that we were swimming among the whales, our stress goes down. And I imagine we could monitor this. I'm sure there's scientific data that would back this up. We would feel more empathetic, more compassionate. We would become better versions of ourselves. And personally, how we benefit when we're a calmer version of ourselves, we make better decisions. We tend to right the wrongs. There's just so many things that come from that calm place. So if we want to, and even my latest book is Dreamifesting,
Mm.
if we want to, which is about manifesting, allowing our dreams to help do the heavy lifting of what it is we want to create physically in our waking lives, because we all must manifest. We to have roofs over our head, clothes on our back, food in our bellies. We got to do something to create these things. For most of us that don't have just a silver spoon or a trust fund or whatever. So we have to do something. Our dreams can help us do that. And what if, I mean, this might sound crass, but and my English, so I'm co-hosting a show in the UK, The Healing Power of Dreams, and she's always saying, "Oh, you're so American, Kelly." Teresa's, and this is the American crass John Wayne part of me, like, let's just do it, let's just get her done. It's kind of like let's just contemplate the whales, especially at the moment before we go to sleep. In
Mm.
those moments bookending our sleep are when our consciousness is so porous, when the veil between worlds is thin. What we think about, what we connect with in those moments is it's so important. It has a deep resonance into our deep subconscious. So if we're looking for a silver bullet, if we're looking for a little pill that's going to make our lives better in every imaginable way, maybe it's the contemplation of the whales. By resonating with them, by getting in sync with them, like what Gypsy said, coming to their level. And I'm kind of doing the down. Normally we think of raising consciousness by elevating. In some way, I think the whales are saying, no, just drop into the deep, deep place. You don't have to get manic. You don't have to go out of your mind. You just drop in to a more cellular place within yourselves. Come swimming with us. And that's where the healing is. That's where the magic is. That's where the medicine is. That's where the best ideas are. So if we're lonely and we want to attract a partner, if we need more abundance in our lives, if we have a health struggle, what if all of it is about contemplating with the whales? Maybe we get all of those benefits by contemplating the whales throughout our day, but especially at the moments right before we go to sleep.
I love that. I love that. And I'll share a little trick that I don't share with many people. But and I learned it in one of those desperate moments. I learned that some of the coolest
The
things
best
in those
things come in the
desperate
desperate
moments, right?
moments. That's why a crisis is a
And
terrible thing to waste. Shameless
I
plug.
know. And I'll tell you the story about how I learned this because it was right after the LA fires. And that was a very, wow. So I think we were all out of our minds. It was so, I
Yes.
really learned what trauma was. I remember I missed my flight to Hawaii. I literally couldn't,
Yeah.
my operational capacity was so confused that I could not pack and get to the airport on time, which, years and years of doing that. But so anyway, I was in a traumatized mind, and I was leading a retreat in Maui, the first Writing with the Whales retreat. And I get there, and it's a lovely group. And there's this one woman there who I am just not her cup of tea. And she tells me as such on our very first day of hiking. She tells me that I'm not her cup of tea. And by the way, she doesn't like traveling in groups, and she won't be eating because she's getting ready for a ceremony. It's a very physically active retreat. And at any other point in my life, the Leah Lamb that I know would have gotten very annoyed and would have told her to get the next plane off the island or get out of my retreat. Like, I just would not have had much capacity or energy for that.
Bye.
But I was in trauma mind, and I literally couldn't respond. And so in that moment of really not knowing how to respond to this person, I I, I I literally just kind of in a desperate moment, I was like, well, whales, they're here for you. She's here for you. So what you got for me? Like, what do you do with someone who doesn't have pod consciousness? And the act of considering just to go to them with a question came from that place. And so they answered me right back. It was an instant response. And they said, make the pod bigger. And so I really thought about what they were saying. And they were saying, make your energetic space large enough for this woman to exist within. Pods don't have to be right on top of each other. They can have spaciousness, and then they can come back. And they can have spaciousness, and they can come back. And so I said, with true respect for her dignity for who she was, I said, you know what? I get that how I lead groups is not your cup of tea, and that group stuff isn't your own thing, and that you really came here for the whales. So, here's our itinerary. This is when we'll spend time with whales. This is when we're going to be doing group things, and you don't have to be there. You're really welcome. But you be you. You're fully accepted for being who you are. That spaciousness, that grace was bigger than me at that time. That really came from somewhere else. And breathing that into our space really made space for her to fully join the group.
Oh, I love that.
And
Oh,
so I
honey.
really have to give whales that credit for that, because that way of being was not in me at that moment. Now it is, because I learned it from them, but at the time it wasn't. And so you don't have to wait to be desperate. But I think when we have these things, when we can feel we're at the edges of our own capacity or our own knowledge or our own life experience or our own consciousness, we can go to someone that's further down the line. And sometimes that's an elder who's a human, or sometimes that's a whale. And you can just deep beep, how would you guys deal with this? I go to them with everything now.
WWWD. What would whales do? When in doubt, WWWD.
I think Monica Vaughn needs to make that too. She's making our resource change calendar.
Exactly.
She's making our Love with
And
Whales too.
Monica Vaughn also said, I thought it was a silver lining. So instead of a silver bullet, it's the silver
Oh,
lining. So I think that's another way of putting that. I like that better. Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. Oh my heavens. I can't believe we've been talking so long. We were only supposed to go for
Oh
an
my
hour.
gosh.
We're way
Whoops.
over an hour. So
Yeah.
we'll begin to wrap this up, but I don't mind. I feel like the whales are like are happy that we're doing this. And
Mhm.
this is so magical. And you said something about me talking kindly to the flight attendant that didn't want to fill up my bottle and being like, I bet you can, or let's see if you can. And what you did when somebody was opposed to what your agenda was, you asked the whales, help me out here, what can I do? And boom, you applied that in a kind, spacious, flowing manner. So that's a big one. Back to you. That's another takeaway that we can do, because I would dare say every day there's some WWWD moment.
Mhm.
Even if it's subtle or if it's massive, there's some little my sister says this, and so I have to give her credit, my sister Shannon, she says, "Don't turn a misdemeanor into a felony." And,
Mm.
like, that woman was in misdemeanor consciousness, and you could have been like, "Well, get the hell out of my retreat, get off this island," and it could have turned into a felony, but instead, you de-escalated it and turned a misdemeanor into a magic moment. So, we can do that by calling on the whales. I think they have a consciousness beyond us. I wanna just acknowledge one dream that was shared with me about whales.
Mm.
I've had my own dreams. Dana's had his. Let me say this first, and then I'll say about the dream. There's a woman named Lauren Z. Schneider, so shout out to her. I met her through the International Association for the Study of Dreams,
Mm.
IASD. Their website is asdreams.org. They're about to have their annual conference coming up next week. I'll be speaking there in Ashland, Oregon. I'm excited. But Lauren shared with me that there is this phenomenon, a bunch of people who are members of the IASD, asdreams.org. There's a conversation, kind of a subtext, that so many of them are having whale dreams, like off the
Mm.
charts. And this is this, and we ended up having this very long, deep conversation about the nature of whale dreams at this time. And there's this consensus among the scholars that are a part of the IASD, the shamans. It attracts shamans, scholars, artists, anyone who is dream centric is a member of this organization. It's open to anybody that's even dream curious. But the belief is that extreme times call for extreme measures. We're living in extreme times. So we need extreme measures, which is whales. This is your time. It's not the time for subtleties. It's not a minnow of a moment. It's a whale of a time. We need to call in the big guns. We need to call in the silver lining. We need to call them in now. We need them. It's not the time for us to just white knuckle life on our own. There are resources that we are not tapping into. Imagine that we all did have a trust fund of millions of dollars, and yet we're living on food stamps and we're scraping by. What if we didn't have to? What if we didn't have to be so adrenalized every day? What if we tapped into this massive natural resource that wants to support us by calling on the whales and by inviting them into our dreams? So here's one dream that was shared with me. Debbie, I'm just going to call her Debbie. I'm not going to give you the whole story about her because I don't know if she wants this completely public, but she had a number of strokes, and like life and death is very tenuous for her. And in the middle of it, she was kind of praying for help. And she's somebody who has always remembered very little snippets of dreams, never like a big epic dream, but she had one epic dream and she called me to share this with me. She said the whales came to her in her darkest hour. They were surrounding her, and one of them kind of scooped her up and she was able to get on its back. And she went sailing through the ocean with her arms, like somehow, because it's a dream, she doesn't know how she was able to stay on its back while it was going, like taking her wildly through the ocean. And she felt renewed. She felt like everything she had gone through, the pain, the suffering, there was a value to it. And she said it because it brought her into this depth of connection with the whales. So this continues to be a totem for her, a touch point for her to that's helping to heal her, basically. So I just wanted to bring in an actual whale dream while we're talking about whale dreams. So yay, Debbie, and may the whales continue to heal you. So Leah, I put in the link to our dreaming circle, our whale dreamer dreaming circle. I'll put it in again just so it's at the bottom here. Is there anything you want to say about what we've got coming up and what people can expect, or anything
Yeah.
you feel like leaving people at the end?
Well, what I'll say is that that is part of our dreaming circle is part of a whale dreaming council. And so the
Yeah.
council is a group of people that have been gathering globally from around the world. And it includes each month we meet to meet with an indigenous elder, often marine scientists, artists, and we're really deepening our conversation and our understanding of we're reanimating our relationship to the being culture holders of relationship to whales. And so, for example, understanding whales as our ancestors. So we just got to hear the stories of the guardians of the Salish Sea. And so each one we learn more and more and become deeper and deeper into our lexicon, our language, our understanding of relationship. And then we're doing a lot of community really fun things, or people bring their gifts and their talents, we take action, we do things. But right now we're really in this deep learning place. Now the book's called The Whale Dreamer, and it's called The Whale Dreaming Council. So it's not just about not using plastics, it's about also how we're living in our consciousness, understanding that we need both the material and the ethereal. And so, and when we bring into alignment, so the dreaming part, I am so excited to be with you, where we're really going to tap into that. There's so many cultures around the world that understood this conscious dreaming with whales, that the consciousness that's available to us. One of the things I love about being with you, Kelly, is your capacity to go into the ecstatic joy and delight of life while also being really alive and alert and aware of the challenges, the crisis, the disasters. You can really hold both. And, this idea of that part of us, part of what's happening in the world is there's a nightmare that's happening.
Yeah.
And how do we deal with that? How do we confront that? How do we come into safe circles into a sanctuary where we can really tend to what's happening in our dreams and bring healing to them while calling on the consciousness of whales? It's kind of a mystery because we're just about to start. But I love that you are, I'll be following your leadership in these dream circles. So I can't wait to
Oh.
be playing with you in that space.
Oh my goodness. Well, we'll be tag teaming in that. We'll be swimming
Mhm.
together in that.
Mhm.
And so we begin on June 24th. So in
We
just a
do.
few weeks, and it's on the
Mhm.
link. And I don't know what the time of it is. Do we know what the people can
I
find out?
hold on.
They'll be
Oh,
sent
I can do
all the
magical
information.
things like look in my
You
calendar,
can?
and
You can look up
it
things?
does. It's
You are
at
one.
it says that it's at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Yay, that's a reasonable time. I'm doing this
Isn't it though?
UK show and everything I do is at 6 AM, and I'm
Oh
like,
my.
I'll do it." But gosh, it's nice to do something at 11 AM. Wow, that's civilized. Okay, that's wonderful. So people can find out, and if you're just listening and you don't see the chat, you can go to www.thewhaledreamer.com/dreaming dash circle to find out about it. And there's a small fee for it, but it's not very much. And we mostly want just, we don't want to turn anybody away if they want to be a part of it. So just come
Yes.
join the pod. And I love that POD stands for People Operating Divinely. So,
I
and
love that. I
okay, so
love
as we're
that.
wrapping up here, I have to just throw in this little piece. So before we did this call today, I was just looking up all things whale and dreamer, and I found a documentary that was done years ago with Julian Lennon, the whale dreamer. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Gypsy used to date him, and she was in love with Julian Lennon. So I just keep hearing Gypsy say, tell him about Julian. Tell him about Julian. It's so cool that Gypsy and Julian shared this
Yeah.
love for the whales. I mean, I don't know that
Yeah.
they were like an item for very long, but they certainly did
Yeah.
hook up. But, according to Gypsy, we'll let Julian have his own story. Gypsy loved the Beatles, and she was like, whatever. She loved Julian Lennon. So he also found his way into he swam his way into a very similar consciousness. So what
Yes.
we're doing is a little different than that, but it's definitely part of the
Yeah.
same ocean and
Well,
related.
and one of the people that he featured in that documentary was Uncle Bunna Lowry, and he is and has been part of the Whale Dreaming Council. And he was in our very first opening ceremony where he blessed the work that we're doing. And that film, the documentary, it's a worthy documentary to go see, because it will expand your understanding of the people who really take their role of being guardians of whales seriously. They remember. They're still living on the land that they are responsible for, and they still remember their responsibility of guardianship of the waters and our whale family. And so what I love about doing this is that we get to remember and come back to that part of our own lineage that was at one point very connected to and attached to a piece of land, a piece of place in the world that we were responsible for. And it's kind of an amazing time in the world. We travel, we move around. I'm one of those people. And to be reminded that that we are responsible to live in these times, and how do we get to do it? And how do we make it the most beautiful, elegant, delightful time while facing the challenges of our time? And that, I think that's entirely possible.
Oh,
I
yeah.
really believe that's entirely possible.
Oh, yeah. Because we
And the
have to
one
remember. Yeah, go for it.
Oh, I was just going to geek out, and I was just going to say, what happens is when you sign up for the Dreaming Circle, is that you get a
Yes.
membership. So you become member of the Whale Dreaming Council. You get access to not only our dreaming circles, but also the counselors with our elders, and with the other membership only gatherings. And then you also get access to the Whale Dreamer, which I will start reading one chapter a week live. Oh my God, starting in the middle of June. So just to say, it's way more than just a 2-hour dreaming circle you get when you register.
That is so exciting. Oh my heavens. Okay, I'm trying to look up things and I'm not going to be able to multitask here. So I shouldn't even try. Okay. So I'm so excited that your book is going to be coming out, Leah, because I've gotten to be a part of this journey for a long time, and also the video that you did with Dana. We need to make sure that people can see that.
The audio, yeah.
So as we wrap this up, let's just one more time take a breath and just absorb the nutrients that if you heard anything during this time, let's just allow it to drop in. I think that's one of the things that is important. I think sometimes we can be so, or at least I can be so bada bing, bada boom on the surface of the ocean. You hear something good and it just kind of bounces off, but let's take it in. Let's take in what we've heard. Let's take in these treasures, these nutrients. Let's be enriched by the whales. Let's call them into our dreaming. Perhaps tonight we'll have a remembered dream of being with the whales, or maybe the whales will be dreaming us. Who's to say? And either way, we are in a beautiful ocean of emotion where we are not separate from one another. We are in a unified field of truly unconditional love. When we wake up all the way, we realize that we are so deeply connected. What we do to ourselves affects one another. What we do to one another affects ourselves. There is only one of us here. And when in doubt, we can just WWWD. What would the whales do? Thank you, Leah Lamb, sacred storyteller, whale dreamer extraordinaire. And we'll see all of y'all in the Whale Dreamer Council and in our dreaming circle. Sweet dreams. And until we all meet again, may you dream a fest your very best. Sweet dreams.
We hope.